Thanks, Sihle. This year's theme for World AIDS Day is Know Your Status. Significant progress has been made in the AIDS response since 1988, and today 3 in 4 people living with HIV know their status. But there is still a long way to go, as the latest United Nations AIDS report shows, and that includes reaching people living with HIV who do not know their status and ensuring that they are linked to quality care and prevention services. Our reporter Lerato Tipa, who is all the way in Port Elizabeth, is at the Provincial World AIDS Day commemoration, and we now cross to her. Good morning, Lerato. It's over to you.
Good morning. As you said, the theme for this year's World Day celebrations is Know Your Status. And interesting stats recently released is that in South Africa, 1.2 million people were tested for HIV and AIDS, but only 30% of those were actually males. I'm sure you saw the story earlier on where we interviewed males who were saying they're not testing and they're scared to test. So a decrease of males going for HIV and testing, but the theme this year is Know Your Status, and it is hope that men this year will go out in their numbers and test. If I just move away from my shot talking about testing, we'll see we're actually inside a testing station where people will be allowed to come and test for HIV and AIDS, for TB, for every other illness related to HIV and AIDS as well. But joining me this morning is the MEC for Health, Ms. Helen Sauls. Ms. Sauls, earlier on was speaking about the low number of males that are going for HIV and testing. What plans are in place to try and encourage males to go and test, because women obviously are going out in the numbers but males are not?
Well, firstly, in the province, currently we have a statistic of having only tested 30% of our males out of a total number of 1.2 people that we have tested for the financial year. This then is an indication that our programs must focus more on men and on young men, and we are going to do that through our health facilities. That's one of the programs, making sure that when they do come there, we test them for everything now. Secondly, also the messaging. We're going to start changing the messaging so that it speaks to men, so that my daughter can understand also that we are speaking to them and want them to come and to get tested. And then thirdly, also working with our NGOs and with our current Tuma Mina programs that we are having, where we are taking doctors and nurses to our far-flung areas, to areas that is very far from our facilities, having them on Saturdays and Sundays out, because most of the men are telling us that although most of them are not working, but they are always seeking for jobs. So where we are, they are not there during. So we are also hoping with our Tuma Mina programs that is also running on Saturdays and Sundays when we have doctors and nurses, that will also have an uptake in making sure that we reach out to men.
Another problem area among the girls is the age 15 to 24, and there's been a really dramatic increase of the infections in that age group. And those obviously people in schools and in varsity, is there plans to reach out to them as well? Maybe sex education at schools and testing at schools as well?
Yes, definitely. Already within the Eastern Cape province, we are having programs with the Department of Health, with the Department of Education and Social Development. We have the integrated school health program where we are going to schools, also working with our NGOs in the sector. The Department of Social Development has also got the Yololo program that they are running, reaching out to that cohort of young women. Obviously, that is a cohort that we need to stabilize. We need to bring down the targets. Currently in the Eastern Cape, we have more than 1.9 thousand young women being infected every week, and that is a staggering. So I think the messaging to young people needs to be a very specific message, because we've been doing it for the last 20 years now, but we can't seem to get that. But when we are going to deal with men, we need to correlate this increase in these young cohorts also with the correlation with the statistics of men, because those two go together. So it is young women being infected by older men, and we need to address that. We can't shy away from that aspect. So when we need to speak to young girls and focus more on awareness and hit hard on education, because I think that is going to be the breakthrough. And I think in the Eastern Cape we have done well so far, working with our stakeholders on the Eastern Cape AIDS Council, but I think we just need to have a far more aggressive program in dealing with that cohort of young people.
And then lastly, every single year, MEC, we are having World AIDS Day celebrations, but South Africa is leading in the entire world with AIDS statistics. What do you think must be done more to reach people at a ground level to stop the spread of HIV and AIDS, especially in South Africa?
I think one of the issues is working more hand in hand, not with NGOs also with our churches, because our people love their churches. I think think the messaging there from the pulpit, the leaders, the religious sectors from all different denominations need to buy into this program. For the last 5 to 7 years, they've almost taken a step back and left it only to government and NGOs on the ground. We need all stakeholders. We need the sporting community, the fraternity, to come to the party so that we get the awareness, a very aggressive awareness program run, and education. We can't underpin this issue into our communities to speak to our young people and to get the message out there.
Well, as the MEC for Health, Ms. Helen Saul, saying that the fight against HIV and AIDS cannot be done by the Department of Health alone. It's going to become a joint effort from the community, from the churches, and only once people come together and becomes a joint effort can we fight the scourge of the spread of HIV and AIDS, particularly in South Africa, which is the highest country with this epidemic. It's back to you in studio.
And that was our